Your tongue is thick with the taste of lake water and ash. You have not chewed anything solid in 2 days. Outside the reed wall of your hut, the causeway carries a smell you will never own. Sweet ground cacao, roasted meat, honey smoke, drifting down from the stone houses where the drums keep time for men who have never once felt their own stomach fold in on itself. You press your knuckles into your belly to make the ache sit still. Across the water, on the high terrace, a servant throws half a roasted duck to a dog. The dog eats better tonight than your whole street. You watch the grease shine on its jaw, and you do not look away. You cannot afford to look away. Hunger has taught you to memorize the shape of every meal you will never touch. This is Tenochtitlan, the greatest city in the world, they will call it. Cleaner than Paris, wider than Venice, a white jewel floating on a lake with causeways like the spokes of a wheel, and canals bright with 1,000 canoes. All of that is true, and all of that sits on top of your empty stomach. You are a macehualli, a commoner, a pair of hands with a name no one on the terrace will ever learn. You were born owing and you will die owing, and the years between are filled with maize you grow and rarely eat. Let the morning come. Let me walk you across this water and show you both banks of it. Because the horror of this place is not that people go hungry. People go hungry everywhere. The horror is how close the feast sits to the famine. The horror is that the wind carries the smell of the duck straight into your mouth. You wake before the sun on a mat of reeds pressed flat by your own body. There is no blanket worth the name. There is a coarse cloth of maguey fiber, stiff and prickling, because the soft white cotton is not for you. There is a law about that. We will come back to the law. For now there is only the cold coming up off the lake, and the sound of your children breathing too fast, the shallow breath of small bodies that did not get enough yesterday. You reach for the pot. You already know what is in it. Atole, maize gruel thinned with water until it is more memory than food, gray and warm and almost nothing. You drink it standing up. You give the thicker part to the children and take the water for yourself. This is not kindness. This is arithmetic. A child who stops growing does not start again. Your whole world is maize. You wake to maize. You work for maize. You pray to gods who are made of maize. When the maize is good, you are thin. When the maize fails, you are a corpse waiting for the news to reach your legs. Everything you are hangs on a plant that hangs on the rain, and the rain answers to no one you have ever met. Now cross the water with me. Cross to the other bank while your gruel is still cold in your throat. In the palace of the Tlatoani, the great speaker, the man the soft foreign priests will one day call an emperor, the morning is a different animal entirely. He does not reach for a pot. He does not stand. He waits, and the food comes to him, and it comes in numbers that would make you weep. Every day, they will tell the story later, 300 dishes are prepared for his single mouth. Some accounts say 1,000, counting the guards and the dancers and the dwarfs and the endless court. Turkey and duck and quail, deer and rabbit and wild boar, dog fat and soft and gentle for exactly this. Fish that was swimming in the salt sea at dawn and lies steaming on his plate by midday because runners carry it in relays up from the coast, 200 miles, sprinting the fish inland faster than a horse could walk it, so that a man on a mountain lake can taste the ocean whenever the mood takes him. He points. A servant lifts a screen of gilded wood so that no common eye, not even the eye of a lord, may watch the great speaker chew. He eats a mouthful of this, a mouthful of that. Most of it he does not touch. The 300 dishes are cleared away, barely tasted, and handed down the long ladder of the court, and even the leavings of his table feed more nobles than your entire district will eat this week. And then the cacao. This is the thing you must understand. This is the wound. Cacao is money. The bean is currency. You can buy a rabbit with beans, a canoe, a slave, a life. And the Tlatoani drinks it. He drinks money, whipped to a dark foam with a wooden mill, spiced with chili and vanilla and honey and the red dye of the achiote, poured from a golden cup into a golden cup from a height to raise the froth. 50 jars of it, some say, drained in his household in a day. He is drinking, in a single afternoon, more wealth than you will hold in your 2 hands across your whole life. You have never tasted it. You will never taste it. There is a law about that too. And when a lord throws a feast, and they throw them to show the world they can, the waste alone would keep your family fed for a year. The guests are washed and seated by rank on reed mats around the courtyard, And before a single dish arrives, there are tubes of tobacco and there are flowers, always the flowers, garlands and bouquets pressed into every hand, because a Mexica lord holds a blossom to his nose the way he holds his own importance, delicately and in public. Then the courses come. Tamales stuffed with turkey, with fruit, with beans and squash. Sauces ground on stone with tomato and chili, and the dark seed they call the food of the gods. Froth cacao again, jar after jar. And late, when the lords are full and loose, the pulque comes, the white drink of the maguey, forbidden to you on pain of death, and poured here like water. Forbidden even to the young lords until their hair goes gray. Because a commoner drunk is a criminal, and a lord drunk is a host. The poets stand and sing that life is brief, that we are here only a moment, that the flower fades and the jade shatters and nothing lasts. They can afford to find it beautiful that everything ends. They have eaten. Now come back to me. Come back across the water, because your day has not paused for his breakfast. You go to the chinampas, the floating fields. This much is real magic, and you built it. Your grandfathers dredged the black mud from the lake bottom and packed it into long garden beds fenced with living willow. And the mud is so rich it grows 7 crops a year. It is the most productive farming the world has yet seen. And still you are hungry, because most of what grows here does not stay in your hands. You wade in cold water to your waist. You haul the black mud. You plant, you weed, you carry, you bend until your spine is a question mark, and your fingers split at the tips. The sun climbs. Your stomach has stopped asking now. It has gone quiet and mean, a tightness under the ribs that turns everything sharp and far away. At the edge of the lake, you do what the hungry here have always done. You harvest the water itself. There is a scum that grows thick on the surface, a blue-green skin the Mexica call Tenochtitlan, and you rake it off and dry it into cakes, and it tastes of the lake and of mud and of nothing. But it is protein, and it is free, and it keeps a body upright one more day. You gather the eggs of the water fly off the reeds, tiny pale things called ahuautli, the caviar of the poor. You take the little fish, the axolotl, the tadpoles, the water beetles, the winged ants when they swarm. You eat the things that the lake will give a man who has nothing. Grasshoppers, roasted with salt and chili when there is salt and chili. Worms from the maguey. You eat what crawls and what swims and what floats, and you tell your children it is good, and some of it is, and none of it is enough. This is not a story of a people too primitive to feed itself. Hold on to that. The Mexica were engineers. They fed a city of 200,000 souls, larger than any city in Europe, on gardens floating in a lake. The hunger you feel is not an accident of ignorance. It is a design. Someone decided who eats. Let me show you who decided. The whole empire is a machine for moving food and cloth and feathers and blood uphill, from the many to the few. It runs on tribute. Every town that the Mexica ever beat in war, and they beat almost everyone, pays. The tribute rolls are painted and precise. This province owes so many loads of maize, so many of beans, so many of chili and cotton and cacao and salt, so many war costumes, so many live captives for the stone. The wealth of half of Mexico flows into the storehouses of Tenochtitlan, and the storehouses of Tenochtitlan feed the lords, and the lords feed you nothing but the right to keep working. You pay too. You pay in labor, on the roads, on the temples, in the fields of men above you. You pay in maize you cannot spare, and when you have paid you are allowed to keep what is left, which in a good year is little and in a bad year is death. Once, you carry a load of tribute maize to the great market at Tlatelolco, and it nearly breaks you, not the weight, the wanting. 60,000 people on a single market day. The foreigners will later swear, more than any market they ever saw in Europe. You walk aisles that go on past seeing. Here the maize in mountains, white and yellow and blue and red. Here beans in a dozen colors, chilies strung in ropes taller than a man, smoked and dried until the air itself bites. Here tomatoes, here the little green husk fruit, here vanilla, here honey, here the dried cakes of lake scum you know far too well, laid out beside cacao you will never buy. Here turkeys alive and turkeys plucked, haunches of deer, dog cleaned and folded on clean mats, fish carried down on ice run from the mountains. Here fruit you have no name for from lands you will never walk. The smell of all of it is a physical thing. It reaches into your chest and pulls. You have a few cacao beans knotted in a rag, enough for a handful of tortillas and a little salt, and you spend them, and you leave. The market goes on behind you, feeding the city its whole glittering body of food, and not one mouthful of that body was ever meant for you. You carried the tribute in. You carried the hunger out. Before I take you into the worst of it, into the year the sky turned against you, stay with me and answer me one thing in the comments while your stomach still remembers this. Could you eat what this man eats to see one more sunrise? The lake scum, the fly eggs, the worms pulled out of the maguey. Be honest with yourself. Then keep watching, because hunger is about to stop being a discomfort and start being a grave. If a starving farmer on a floating garden already turns your stomach, wait until you see what the priests did on the days the rain would not come. Do not click away. The bottom of this is a long way down, and I promise you have not seen it yet. Here is where I have to break something for you, because the world will remember these people wrong. The soft foreigners who come later will paint two pictures, and both are lies. In one, the Mexica are gentle children of nature living in a green paradise, and everything cruel about them was invented by their conquerors. In the other, they are nothing but a howling cult of the knife, ripping hearts out for sport, savages with no more to them than blood. Hollywood loves the second one. It is easy to film. It lets you feel clean. The truth is worse than either, because the truth is a government. The truth is paperwork. The truth is a tax office with a temple on top. The blood was real. Yes, the sacrifices were real. On the great days, the steps of the pyramid ran wet, and the bodies came down, and the flesh of some captives was shared and eaten in a stew with maize by the men who mattered. A holy meal, a meal you were never invited to. But it was not chaos. It was administered. It was budgeted. Someone counted the captives the way someone counted your loads of maize. The horror of Tenochtitlan is not that it was wild. The horror is that it was organized, and it organized you to the bottom. Even terror here is ranked. Even the gods eat by class. Most places would have handed you the clean marble version of this empire. The temples swept, the blood wiped off, the hunger left politely out of the frame. If you would rather have your history the way it actually smelled, subscribe and stay down here on the low bank of the water with me. There is far more of it than they ever taught you, and none of it is clean. And then comes the year that proves it. One rabbit. Setochtli, in their count of years, and to this day the Mexica will use the word to mean catastrophe. To say a man died in one rabbit is to say he starved. It begins around the year we would call 1450. First, the frost. It comes early and it comes wrong, killing the young maize in the fields overnight. Whole chinampas turned black and slick in a single morning. Then it comes again the next year, and the next. The floating gardens that fed a city cannot fight a sky that freezes in the growing season. Then the locusts. Then the drought, the lake shrinking back from its banks, the wells going to mud, the rain simply gone, month after month of a hard white sky with no mercy in it. The stores empty. Even the great storehouses empty. Slower than yours, but they empty. And now you see the true shape of the abyss. Because when there is nothing, watch who eats last and who does not eat at all. The Tlatoani opens the granaries. For a while there is a dole, a handful of maize to the crowds who come begging to the causeway, and the chronicles will praise his mercy. But the mercy runs dry the way the lake ran dry. The dead begin to pile in the streets and the canals. Vultures, black and patient, come down onto the white city, and they do not leave. They sit on the rooftops of the greatest city in the world, and they wait, and they do not have to wait long. You watch your neighbors do the thing that a parent should never have to think. Merchants come up from the lowlands, from the coast where the frost never reached, and they come with canoes full of maize, and they buy. They buy children, a girl for a basket of grain, a boy for a little more. Families sell their own so that the rest might live one more month, and so that the child might at least eat in the house of a stranger. And the traders paint their faces and lead them away down the causeway, and the parents watch until the canoes are gone. This happened. This is in their own histories, told by their own descendants. This is what one rabbit means. And through all of it, the lords do not sell their children. The lords grow thinner, perhaps. The lords tighten their belts, they will say later, as if a lord and a farmer feel the same tightening. But no noble house in Tenochtitlan hands a daughter to a stranger for a basket of maize. The stores under the palace outlast the famine. Hunger climbs the causeway from the water, and it climbs one house and passes the next by. And it always knows which door is which. Hunger is not shared equally here. It never was. It rises through the city like the lake in flood, and the poor drown in it, and the high terraces stay dry. and the men on the terraces call it the will of the gods. Now let me tell you about the law, because the empire did not trust hunger alone to keep you in your place. It wrote your poverty into stone. There are sumptuary laws about who may have what, and they reach into your mouth and onto your back. Cotton, the soft cloth, is forbidden to you. You wear the maguey that scratches, and you may be killed for wearing better. Sandals in the city, forbidden to the common man. You walk the stone barefoot. Certain feathers, certain dyes, certain jewels, forbidden on pain of death. A house of 2 stories, forbidden. Only a lord may look down on the street. And the foods, the cacao you smelled this morning, forbidden. The finest maize, the choice meats, the drink of the froth, all of it fenced behind rank, and a commoner who reaches over that fence reaches for his own execution. Think about what that means. It was not enough that you were hungry. It had to be against the law for you to be full. Your emptiness was not a side effect. It was policy, painted and enforced, so that when the Lord drank his money in a golden cup, he could look down at your bare feet on the stone and tell himself the order of the world was holy and eternal and correct. If that lands in your gut the way it should, tap the like before you go on. It costs you nothing, and it drags this story in front of one more person who still believes the past was clean. You go back to your mat in the dark. The drums have stopped on the terrace. The dog that ate your street's dinner is asleep somewhere warm. Your children breathe their fast, shallow breath beside you, and you lie awake doing the only work that is free. You count the meals you will never eat, the 300 dishes, the fish that ran 200 miles, the foam of chili and honey in a cup of gold. You hold each one in your mind and you turn it over the way a rich man turns a jewel. And then you let it go, because morning is coming and the mud is cold and the maize will not haul itself. They will tell you, centuries from now, that this was the greatest civilization of its age. And it was. The engineering, the astronomy, the poetry, the floating gardens, all of it real, all of it magnificent, all of it standing on the same foundation every magnificent thing in history has ever stood on. It stood on you. It stood on the ones who grew the food and never tasted the feast, who filled the storehouses and starved outside their doors, who carried the fish and drank the lake, who sold their children in one rabbit while the granaries under the palace stayed full. The feast and the famine here were never 2 different worlds. They were one world, sharing one lake, breathing one wind. And the only thing that ever separated the man with 300 dishes from the man with a pot of gray water was an accident of which mat you were born on, and a law that made that accident holy. So ask yourself tonight, in your warm room, with a full stomach and cold clean water waiting in the tap, which mat would you have woken on? Almost none of us would have opened our eyes on the terrace. Tell me in the comments where you think you would have been born, and whether you would have lasted a single winter. You memorized every meal you would never touch. In the end, that hunger outlived the empire, outlived the lords, outlived the gods on their bloody steps. It is the oldest thing in the world, older than Tenochtitlan, older than the maize. Somewhere tonight a dog is still eating better than a child, and somewhere a wall still stands between the smell of the feast and the man who is not allowed to be full. You know that wall. You have leaned against it your whole life, and you have never once been allowed through the door.